Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and I hope that you are doing super fantastic. It is springtime outside, and it is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, anyway, I I've been, I'm very interested in simulation theory and things like that. And when you get into that, you can't help but go down the road or rabbit hole or whatever of Jean Boudrillard and his four stages of Simulacrum. Jean Boudrillard being the one who wrote the book that the Matrix movies are based on. Now, while he had a dark outlook on the whole thing, and that translated into the darkness of the Matrix movies, I do believe that there is a lot of that we can gain, a lot of knowledge that we can take from the for his theory, and still not go down that dark path, right? So the Jean Baudrillard, famous French philosopher, I'm not sure why I have been stuck on famous French philosophers such as Rene Descartes, who also believed that this illusion, this simulation, or whatever you want to call it, he theorized that it has been hijacked by what he called an evil demon or some negative entity that is keeping humanity down in a low vibrational state, which then it's theorized, and I do believe there's a lot to this. It's theorized that we produce a low vibrational energy. We emit a low vibrational energy known as loosh when we're in those states. States such as fear, anxiety, worry, guilt, shame, all of those negative low vibrational states. And it's and with looking at things from that way, it's no real surprise why humanity is kept in such a negative feedback loop. And it is a feedback loop. It's self-perpetuating at this point. But anyway, so the four stages of the simulacrum, and I'm not going to get too much into it, but we'll hit the high spots anyway. But in the first stage, it says that this is a simulation. It's a copy of something. It's a copy of a base reality, of a what we would call real, right? And in that, we would have an illusion. And by the way, the concept of illusion is not new either. I mean, it's been described as Maya for centuries. Ancient philosophy talked about Maya, or the illusion of life, right? So, but anyway, getting back the four stages. In the first stage, it is a copy of real reality, and it resembles reality very well, right? But and let me make sure it reflects basic reality. So in the second stage, it begins to mask or pervert basic reality. In other words, things begin to change, and it begins to make basic reality not seem so real, or makes us at least begin to question what we would have considered. And if I'm a little sweaty, been doing some gardening, as I said, with the whole springtime thing. Yeah, having to trim bushes. So anywho, I've been doing that. Anyway, and if you have not given this video a thumbs up, please do so. Hit the like button. I would so appreciate that. That would help me grow the channel. And if you have not subscribed yet, I would really appreciate it if you would do that as well. Okay, so the second stage of Jean Baudrillard's simulacrum is when reality begins to morph. It begins to become a little abstract, where it makes us question which is which, right? For example, like with the Mandela effect. Mandela effect is it definitely makes you question reality. For example, one of my favorite examples of Mandela effect is C3PO and his silver leg. I was a kid in the 80s. I was about 4 or 5 years old, I guess, when Star Wars came out. Maybe 3. I don't know. Anyway, I had the little action figure of C3PO, and I remember the movies very well, and C3PO was solid gold from the top of his head to the bottom of both of his feet. And that's just how it is. But then again, it's not. Because now we can go and even pull an old VHS tape, or a beta tape for that matter, from back in that time and watch it. And lo and behold, he had a silver leg, which is like, how did that happen? Is it the people who speculate that CERN has torn some hole in the fabric of space-time and jumped us onto a different timeline where most of us remember C3PO as having a gold leg. Now all of a sudden he has a silver leg. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that whole philosophy there. What I do know is that reality has morphed. Now we are it has changed to a way that now C3PO has always had that silver leg. I accept that. But I also accept the fact that I remember it very well. That wasn't how it is. So I accept the fact that reality has somehow morphed, somehow changed. But that takes me back to the 4 stages of simulacrum, according to Jean Boudrillard. And then that is the second stage. The third stage is when the simulacrum begins to mask basic reality. When it basically starts to, I guess what we're doing now, question what we really know. It's like, I remember things being this way, but maybe not. It begins to completely mask to where our thinking even begins to change, to where we start thinking this is reality, this is normal. And and all that stuff that we remember from the past, and it's really not that distant past either, begins to fade to the point where you really have to get conscious. You really have to become super aware in order to bring that back into your awareness. Anyway, so the 4th stage is when the image bears no resemblance to any reality. It's a full-on simulacrum. In other words, and the word simulacrum itself also is very old. It's a very old Latin word. And it is where something began as a copy of something, began as a simulation, a copy, a copy would resemble, just but the word copy alone indicates that there was an original, and this is a copy of that original. Okay. But at the 4th stage, it's not a copy of anything. It has become its own thing. The simulation has completely morphed into something completely different from its original, to the point where what we remember as the original is no longer there. He gave some great examples. One of which, and I've just got a few little notes, so please bear with me. But the Tazadeh tribes people in the Philippines. They were found living in virgin forest that had never been seen by explorers, by tourists, by anybody. The Tazadeh people had lived completely out of touch with all of modern civilization for like 8 centuries when they were found. And they had brought some of them in the Philippines. They had brought some of these Tazadeh people into modern society. At which point, their whole paradigm of what was real began to shift drastically and fast. To the point where Jean Boudrillard said that after 8 centuries of no contact, but then when they did have contact, they began to disintegrating immediately upon contact, like mummies in the open air. In other words, what they perceived as reality began to disintegrate, like mummies in open air, like instantly and rapidly. In fact, in 1971, the Philippine government decided, we're going to take these Tazadeh people and put them back where they came from, and back into that virgin forest, far away from any any modern civilization, and just allow them to be. So they are completely removed from what we call real. What they call real is what this was originally modeled after, but it bears absolutely no resemblance. None. It has more, this reality from that to this has morphed to the point. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you were to introduce modern civilization to them, blah, 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 exactly, that's the point. Everything has morphed to a point where it doesn't even resemble the original anymore. Another example he used was markets. Like originally, back in the old days, and the people would go to a market to buy goods or trade, right? You would go to a particular farmer for meat or for dairy products. You'd go to someone else for vegetables, whatever the case may be. The market was the place where the community came together to trade to get the things that they needed. And it was a very community-centered thing. It was a big deal to go to the market. To go to the market and communicate, to socialize and have fellowship and, all of those things. And get the things that you needed and all that. And that has been morphed into, this is another example that Jean Boudrillard used, the market has morphed into a supermarket, or where I live, we call it a grocery store, but nonetheless. So the supermarket, while it's still you still go there and you still get the things that you need. You get your dairy and your meat and your vegetables and all of those things. You still go there and get the things that you need, but it has morphed away from what it originally was. There is no sense of community there. In fact, it's that cold, dead, fluorescent light, very impersonal, very generic. And yeah, in fact, you don't have to communicate with anybody. You can go into a store, grab the generic items that, mass produced, overly commercialized items that you need in a very impersonal way, go and very impersonally pay for these things and leave. It has morphed into something that it doesn't even resemble the original thing anymore. And I know it's like, well, what does this have to do with simulation theory? How did the Matrix movies get to, well, it goes deeper into that, yes. But what the point of this is how it came from what it originally was. It was originally a simulation of something that was real, something that was original. And then it has morphed into something else. And anybody who's, I don't know, maybe 30 years old or older should be able to see, yeah, things have changed so much. And really, it's been gradual enough where a lot of people don't notice, but it's also been rapid enough where if you've been paying attention, you would notice. So anyway, loved ones, very interesting stuff. I'm going to get more into it, but I mean, it takes a lot of study to be able to talk about things like that. So I like to just introduce it. And really, I would love to get your thoughts on it because I'm sure there's people out there who are watching this who are already hip to the game and could maybe educate me a little bit. That'd be great. But in the meantime, I will be studying. Yeah. Anyway, loved ones, that's what I got. Please give me a thumbs up on the video if you didn't already. Subscribe to the channel. You can find me on X at Matt Stevens MSA. And yeah, that is what I got. I do love you, and I'll be back directly.